You're not invited to the wedding, my mom texted. Emily's fiancé thinks you'll ruin everything. The message appeared at 7:12 p.m., just as I was pouring a glass of wine in my apartment in Charleston. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. You're not invited to the wedding. No explanation at first. Just that. Then the second message followed. Emily's fiancé thinks you'll ruin everything. I didn't reply. Not immediately. I set the glass down, untouched, and read it again. And again. And again. Because something about it didn't feel real. Not the words. The tone. It wasn't my mother's voice. It was colder. Sharper. Almost rehearsed. I typed, then deleted. Typed again, then deleted again. Finally, I sent one sentence. Since when does Emily's fiancé get to decide who her brother is? The typing bubble appeared instantly, then disappeared, then came back, then disappeared again. And that hesitation told me more than anything she could have written. Please don't make this harder than it already is. Harder? For who? I leaned back against the counter and let out a quiet breath. Emily Whitfield, my little sister, the one I used to walk to school every morning in Greenwich. The one who cried the first time she got her heart broken at 16 and called me at 2 a.m. The one who once said, "No matter what happens, you're always my person." And now I was uninvited. Not by her. By him. Ethan Calloway. I had only met him twice. Once at a dinner that felt more like an interview. And once at their engagement party, where he barely looked at me. But apparently, he had formed an opinion. A strong enough one to erase me. Let me ask you something. If someone who barely knows you suddenly convinces your own family to push you out, would you fight it, or would you step back and watch what happens? Because in that moment, I didn't know which one I was about to do. I picked up my phone again. This time, I didn't text my mom. I called Emily. It rang once, twice, then voicemail. I didn't leave a message. Instead, I sat down on the couch and tried to piece it together. What had I done? I replayed every interaction with Ethan. Every word. Every look. Nothing stood out. Except one thing. At the engagement party, I had asked him a simple question. What do you do exactly? He smiled. Too quickly. Finance. That was it. No specifics. No that did. And when I followed up, he changed the subject. At the time, I let it go. But now it felt like something I wasn't supposed to notice. My phone buzzed again. Emily. I answered immediately. Hey. Her voice was soft. Careful. Like she was walking through glass. Did you see Mom's message? I did. Silence. Then a breath. I'm sorry. That word hit harder than the message. Are you? Another silence. Longer this time. I don't want any drama. Drama. That word again. Used like a shield. Like a justification. I haven't done anything. I know. But Ethan feels like you don't respect him. I laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was absurd. I've spoken to him twice. I know. Then what exactly am I ruining? She didn't answer right away. And in that pause, something shifted. Because it wasn't confusion anymore. It was avoidance. And that scared me more than anything else. Can we just not do this right now? No. The word came out sharper than I expected. Because if I don't ask now, I won't ask at all. Another breath. He said some things. What things? She hesitated. And that hesitation told me everything. He said you've been asking questions about him. I leaned forward. Because I asked what he does for work? It wasn't just that. Then what was it? She didn't answer. Again. And suddenly, the conversation wasn't about Ethan anymore. It was about trust. Or the lack of it. Emily, do you believe him? That was the real question. Not about the wedding. Not about the invitation. About whether she believed a man she'd known for a year over her own brother. I don't know. That was worse than a yes. Because doubt doesn't come from nowhere. It gets planted. Carefully. Slowly. And I could almost see it happening. Every conversation. Every comment. Every subtle suggestion that I was somehow a problem. Okay. That was all I said. Because anything more would have turned into something I couldn't take back. We'll talk later. She said it like a promise. But it didn't feel like one. It felt like an ending. The next few days passed in silence. No calls. No messages. Just the quiet realization that something had changed. Not suddenly. Gradually. Like a crack in glass that finally spreads. Then, 3 days later, I got an email. Not from my mom. Not from Emily. From someone I didn't expect. The subject line read, regarding Ethan Calloway. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity won. Inside was a single paragraph. My name is Daniel Mercer. I believe you've recently been asking about Ethan. You might want to know that the version of him your sister is marrying isn't the first one. I sat up straighter. There was an attachment. I opened it. Documents. Screenshots. Articles. Different names. Different cities. The same face. Ethan Calloway wasn't his real name. Midpoint. Everything shifted in that moment. The narrative he had built around me collapsed instantly. Because now I wasn't the problem. I was the threat. And suddenly, being uninvited made perfect sense. He wasn't protecting the wedding. He was protecting himself. I called Emily again. This time, she answered on the first ring. Hey, Em, I need you to listen to me. What is it? There's something about Ethan you don't know. Silence. Then tension. What are you talking about? I just got information, real information, about him. He's not who you think he is. Her tone changed instantly. Defensive. Stop, Emily. I said stop. I froze. You're doing exactly what he said you would do. My chest tightened. What? You're trying to sabotage this. No, I'm trying to protect you. From what? From him. Another silence. But this one was different. Heavier. More final. I think it's better if we don't talk for a while. The call ended. Just like that. And for the first time, I realized something I hadn't wanted to admit. I might not be able to stop this. Even if I was right. The wedding day arrived a week later. I didn't go. Of course I didn't go. I wasn't invited. But that didn't mean I didn't show up. I stood across the street from the venue. A quiet estate just outside Scottsdale. I watched as guests arrived, as cars pulled in, as laughter filled the air. And for a moment, I considered walking away, because maybe this wasn't my place anymore. Maybe I had already lost her. But then I remembered something. Not a memory. A detail. One of the documents. A pattern. Every time Ethan changed identities, it happened right after a major life event. A move. A marriage. A financial shift. And this wedding, this wasn't the beginning of something. It was the setup for something else. I stepped forward. Not as a guest. Not as a brother. But as someone who refused to ignore the truth. Security stopped me at the entrance. I'm sorry, sir. You're not on the list. I know. I took a breath. But she's my sister. They exchanged a look. Then one of them stepped aside. Wait here. Minutes later, Emily appeared. In her dress. Perfect. Radiant. And completely unaware. What are you doing here? Her voice wasn't angry. It was tired. I couldn't stay away. She looked at me. Really looked at me. And for a moment, I saw it. The doubt. Still there. Still alive. I told you not to come. I know. Then why are you here? Because this was it. The final moment. The point where everything either breaks or gets revealed. Because if I'm wrong, I'll walk away and never bring this up again. And if you're not, I held her gaze. Then this isn't the wedding you think it is. She didn't respond. But she didn't leave either. And that was enough. I handed her the folder. Just look. That was all I asked. Not to believe me. Not to cancel anything. Just to look. She took it. Slowly. And in that moment, everything went quiet. No music. No laughter. Just the weight of a decision she hadn't expected to make. The ending didn't explode. There was no dramatic scene. No shouting. No confrontation in front of everyone. Because real life doesn't work like that. Instead, the ceremony was delayed. Then postponed. Then quietly canceled. No announcement. No explanation. Just silence. A different kind of silence this time. The kind that follows truth. Weeks later, Emily called me. Not to apologize. Not to explain. Just to say one thing. You were right. And sometimes, that's all there is. No perfect closure. No dramatic ending. Just the quiet understanding that something almost happened and didn't. What's your personal reflection? If your family chose someone else's words over yours, would you keep fighting for them or walk away for good?